27 is going to be where we come to the Word today. Want to remind you, we do have church on Wednesday night. Wednesday night is our family night. We got... Did you say boo? Oh, I was like, I'm about to kick some folk out of here. We do have family night on Wednesday night, something for the youth, the kids, and the adults here in the sanctuary. And so y'all come out. We're going to be having soup and sandwiches starting at 5:45. Tonight, Brother Todd, we've got Quest at 6 o'clock here at the church for Bible study. And then my birthday is February the 17th. Fat Thursday. Hallelujah. Because it's going to be Sick 'em Pig Sunday today. So, my wife doesn't find that very funny. But, no, it's not my birthday, but it's Fat Thursday. I thought it was Fat Tuesday. So there's a Fat Thursday too. Some of us, it's just kind of chubby every day. So y'all live the way you're going to live. Hallelujah. This morning's sermon is entitled Natural Disasters That Changed the World. And we're going to be looking at Acts 27 here in a moment. And this is actually a little more appropriate with the earthquakes that have happened in Turkey and Syria. It becomes a little more relevant for us today. And the last number I saw this morning was somewhere around 28,000 have died in Turkey and Syria. And I know that's a devastating thing. Do you understand? It has been worse, much worse. Weather phenomena, I've got friends that are kind of broom closet meteorologists. They like to chase storms and do stuff like that. My wife, we had a hurricane. It was a tornado come passing through our place in Arkansas, and she worked at a bank, and they told everybody, get in the vault, and they started counting everybody up and looked and realized there was one person not in the vault. Looked up at the plate glass window, and there's my wife. Andrea, get in here. She said, no, I want to see this thing. That's who I married. I'm hunkered in the bunker with the mattress on top of me, and she's out there going, cool. This is, her hair is sitting there doing this, but that would be how my wife would go. I'll tell you that right now. A weather phenomena is fun to watch unless you're in it. It ain't so fun when you're in the midst of it. And as we're kind of watching cataclysmic weather around us with earthquakes and then floodings and some bad stuff that's been happening within the last year, I want us to look at just look at yesteryear a little bit at some natural disasters that literally changed the world that we live in. And this comes from a book called The Weather Factor, How Nature Has Changed History by a guy by the name of Eric Dershmitt. And I want to share this with you. The first one was the Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami of 2004. Some of you remember this. I saw pictures where in the bay, after the tsunami hit and washed back out, it looked like logs, just like a bay full of logs. That wasn't logs, that was people. And in 2004, when that earthquake happened in the Indian Ocean and the tsunami that hit it made history, killing around 230,000 people in 14 countries. Indonesia was the one that caught it the worst with around 170,000 deaths in its own. The economic impact was horrendous that even affected us here in America. The disaster, however, forced the United Nations to finally introduce a tsunami warning system in the Indian Ocean that's been in the Pacific since the 1940s. Why on earth they didn't go ahead and have it everywhere? Who knows? Maybe thousands of lives could have been saved. Another one was the Krakatoa volcano in 1883. This happens to be in Indonesia as well. Indonesia is not a good place to live. I'm just going to say right now, it's probably a good place to be from. Seems to be a lot of weather-related activity over there. Krakatoa's famous eruption in 1883 and the tsunami waves that followed afterwards sunk 2/3 of the island. I mean, gone forever. And taking with it hundreds of villages and tens of thousands of lives. And the massive amount of material that was coming out of that explosion actually deposited a lot of stuff on the ocean floor and surrounding Krakatoa, so much so that it increased the landmass of the other islands that are around it. And a more recent one, like this picture right here, that's been in just within the last few years, actually created another island because of the rising of the volcanic material. It actually popped a new island up called Anak Krakatoa, which means child of Krakatoa. So it's funny how one volcano destroyed islands, another volcano created an island. Interesting. Back in 1970, the year I was born, but not because of me, was what was called the Bola cyclone. And it struck the Bengal coast in 1970, and it was the deadliest tropical cyclone ever recorded up to that point, wiping out entire villages and killing as many as, get this, 500,000 people. The government was criticized for failing to handle the relief efforts. Protests led to national elections that overthrew the government a month later. And the ensuing unrest actually triggered a civil war. Think about that. It's not bad enough to have a cyclone. It's not bad enough to have all these tsunami waves that come through. But on top of that, it's going to create a war that widened into what was called the Indo-Pakistani War, resulting in a newly independent nation of Bangladesh. And so, I mean, just devastating all the way around. That created a new nation that's here today. Let's look at one other one, and that's the Great Blizzard of 1888. The same year Wayne Eads was born. Awesome. Happy birthday, brother. The Great Blizzard of 1888 was one of the worst blizzards ever recorded in United States history. 40 to 50 inches of snow. We lose our minds with 1.5 inches. 40 to 50 inches of snow fell in parts of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, completely paralyzing the East Coast. All the rail and road transport ground to a halt, and it took days and days just to clear stuff out so it could be used. And this storm is really one of the main reasons that the Americans created the first underground railway system in Boston, which is what we know of as a subway. And it was because of that storm. Another outcome of that storm is that in New York, they began placing telegraph and telephone lines, all their infrastructure for that, underground. It was the first time. It was always up in the air, but after that storm, they started putting it all underground in case of future events. So it's interesting when you study some of this stuff, how you think weather's simple, but it's not simple after all. As a matter of fact, the outcome of weather can actually change everything around you. And sometimes, and this happens just in life, how do you know change happens? It does. I mean, I can't do things I used to do. I can't eat what I used to eat. I sure can't eat the amount that I used to eat. But as life changes, sometimes it changes slowly, but how do you know sometimes it changes rapidly? But sometimes changes are permanent. Just like in what you saw where these waves would come in and wash an entire village out. Where there was a village, there is no longer a village. We're being told that this earthquake in Turkey has actually shifted its landmass like 9 feet. I mean, it's amazing how it can permanently change things. Well, let's look at Acts chapter 27 at something that happened that where a storm actually caused something permanent to happen. Acts is written by the book of Luke, so it's written from by the author Luke, who wrote the book of Luke. So Acts is kind of like Luke book 2. And he was a physician at the time, and he's acting kind of like the Apostle Paul's official biographer. So this is written from his viewpoint. It says there in Acts 27 verse 1, when the time came, we set sail for Italy. Paul and several other prisoners were placed in the custody of a Roman official named Julius, a captain of the imperial regiment. Aristarchus, a Macedonian from Thessalonica, was also with us. We left on a ship whose home port was Adramyttium on the northwest coast of the province of Asia. It was scheduled to make several stops at ports along the coast of the province. Verse 7, we had several days of slow sailing, and after great difficulty, we finally neared Cnidus. But the wind was against us, so we sailed across to Crete and along the sheltered coast of the island, past the Cape of Salmone. And we struggled along the coast with great difficulty, finally arrived at Fair Havens near the town of Lasea. And we had lost a lot of time. The weather was becoming dangerous for sea travel because it was so late in the fall, and Paul spoke to the ship's officers about it. He said, men, I believe there is trouble ahead if we go on, shipwreck, loss of cargo, and the danger of our lives as well. But the officer in charge of the prisoners listened more to the ship's captain and to the owner than Paul. And since Fair Havens was an exposed harbor, a very poor place to spend the winter, most of the crew wanted to go on to Phoenix, further up the coast of Crete, and spend the winter there. Phoenix was a good harbor with only a southwest and northwest exposure. Verse 13. When a light wind began blowing from the south, sailors thought they could make it, so they pulled up anchor and sailed close to the shore of Crete. But the weather changed abruptly, and a wind of typhoon strength, called a northeaster, burst across the island and flew us out to sea. The sailors couldn't turn the ship into the wind, so they gave up and let it run before the gale. This mentions a thing called a nor'easter or northeaster, which is kind of what they call a macro scale cyclone. And we have them here up along the eastern coast of the United States and Atlantic Canada. And it comes from the direction of the northwest winds, the strongest winds, coming offshore air masses come in counterclockwise, and they turn. They because of how they turn, they blow from a northeast to southwest pattern across land. And that's kind of an unusual thing. This is what Paul got caught up with. And it literally blew them away from the landmass where they wanted to go, throwing them out to sea. And there's all you can do. You can't fight it. You've got to go with it so you don't get swamped. And as a sudden change of wind not only changed the trajectory of Paul's boat from where they were traveling, it would wind up causing a spiritual awakening in a little island called Malta. That's where they'd be shipwrecked. That's where Paul would get snake bit, and he would shake the snake off into a fire. He didn't die. They thought he was a god. He said, I'm not a god, but I represent a God. His name is Jesus Christ. And because of that, there's not only a revival broke out on the island of Malta, but to this day, people call Jesus Lord on Malta because of what happened, because a storm changed the ship's direction and made it go where God wanted it to go. Is somebody seeing this here? In all of our lives, change occurs. It just happens. Some for the better and some not so much. But I know that even when things are happening in my life that I do not like, Romans 8:28 says, all, somebody say all things work for the good of those that love the Lord and are called into His purposes. And so even the things that look bad, if you'll give it time, God can take the bad and make something good out of it. That's the incredible God we serve. The single greatest change that must take place in you, in me, is that moment Christ is allowed to come into our lives to bring order to the chaos we have created in our own lives. And when God comes into your life, some of those changes are simply His blessings. Good days, pay raises, bonuses. Woohoo! Hallelujah. being able to laugh and enjoy your time. Some of those changes come through challenges, through pain and sickness, a flat tire, a storm. Something happens and it changes everything. Regardless of how change comes and occurs in your life needs to be in God. And that your life needs to be constantly changing you. With Jesus in your life is constantly changing, becoming more like Him and less like who you've always been. Somebody hearing me? How do I know I'm saved? Because your life is changing. Listen to me, friend. I don't want to belittle anybody or anybody's experience. You can come down to an altar and you can pray and leave, and all you've did is waste your time. A person can get baptized, they go down a dry center and they come up a wet center. I can lead you in a prayer after this service, and all you did was breathe. And it didn't change a thing. Why? Because you had a moment, but you didn't have a life change. Well, what do I do, Brother Mike? When you give Christ your life, you let Him have all your life forever. Forever. Now, hear me. How do I know that my life belongs to Jesus Christ? How do you know that you got sprayed by a skunk? You notice the change immediately. It follows you everywhere. When you connect with God and He is in your life, something changes in a man and woman, a child's heart. Something changes in us that we are no longer the same. Suddenly we're not thinking about what we want, it's about what He wants. My convictions start becoming sharper. The Lord starts showing up where at one point He wasn't convicting you about anything. Now He's starting to say, hey, Woody, you better quit it. Hey, Mark, you better quit it. Hey, B. No, God gave up on B. No, He didn't. He didn't give up on B. He didn't give up on B. The Lord, when I belong to the Lord, where I didn't care once before, I start caring. Because He's starting to move in me. He's starting to change me. I'm starting to realize things have got to be different in my life. But let me tell you something, friend. It's not up to you to change you. It's up to Him to change you. That's why salvation comes from God. Because I can't do it on my own. There's a lot of things I can't do on my own. I was at H-E-B this week. My wife and I were shopping. And there was something on the top shelf. I put my pride away a long time ago. There's this guy walking by and said, hey, bud, you're taller than me. Grab that. He was younger, so I could boss him around. He got it for me, handed it to me, he laughed a little bit. I said, I don't get asked to do that very much. You got to be even shorter than me, and we're both in trouble. When I call out to God, God hears. And He wants to change. He wants to help. It's not a matter of, I just came down here and shook Brother Mike's hand. No, it's God, I want you, now move through me. How do I know I belong to Jesus? Because you know. You know. Are we perfect? Well, some of you are. I remember hearing my buddy said, the Lord made some very beautiful and perfect heads in this world. And the rest He had to cover up with hair. You're welcome. Threw a bone to some of y'all. We're not perfect. And we're never going to be perfect. Look at your wife and say, I told you so. Okay. It's helping you out at Valentine's Day. I'm not perfect. We're not going to be perfect. You know what we are? Forgiven. Amen. And so I can come to God when I make a mistake And let me tell you something, friend. The shame is not in the falling down. The shame's in the staying down. God already factored in all your stupidities and all your weaknesses and still called you to be His son and daughter. So when we fall down, it's not that we do it intentionally. It's not that we're just trying to live both lives. No. Do your best to live for God. But if you fall down, for heaven's sake, get up. Don't stay down. Get up. Brush yourself off and just keep walking with Jesus. There's got to be a life change. Acts chapter 26, starting in verse 19, says, I obeyed that vision from heaven. I preached first to those in Damascus, then in Jerusalem, and through all Judea to all the Gentiles, that they all must repent of their sins and turn to God and prove they have changed. Somebody say change. By the good things they do. A tsunami of the Spirit wrecks your life, and now there's got to be a change. You're different. 2 Corinthians 3:18. So all of us who have had that veil removed can see and reflect the glory of the Lord. And the Lord, who is the Spirit, makes us more and more like Him as we are what? Changed into His glorious image. You see, God is busy trying to help make you a better person. A person that's more like Him. I try, but it don't always work. I've lost accumulatively about 1,400 pounds in my life. And it's about that same 30 every year. Have you feel my pain? I can't even make the good changes in my life. I need God to make those changes. And guess what? It says right here, that's what He does. Colossians 1:6. That same good news that came to you is going out all over the world. It is bearing fruit everywhere by changing lives, just as it changed your life from the day you first heard and understood the truth about God's wonderful grace. What I love about my God is He will accept me in whatever shape I'm in. In your dope smoking, whiskey drinking, dog kicking, wife slapping, kids screaming. Quit looking at your neighbor. He's talking about you. However bad you are, listen, God loves you so much, He takes you just as you are. But He loves you so much, He's not going to leave you the way He found you. He loves you so much, He wants to change you. And when He changes you, it's not going to be a thing where you say, oh, I just can't stand this. Oh, I can't handle this. Instead, you're going to look at yourself in the eyes in the mirror for the first time and say, I like what I see. I like where I'm going. I like what God is doing because I'm a better man. I'm a better woman. I'm a better person. God is doing something good in me. And even your spouse is going to like it. Your kids are going to like it. Your dog is going to like it. Your mother-in-law may even like it. That would be a miracle. God loves you, so He wants to change you. And just as an earthquake or a tidal wave can change the landscape forever, the shaking and flooding of God's love changes us forever too. And God isn't just about changing a person. He doesn't just want to change you. He wants to change your whole family. He wants to change your church. He wants to change your community. Marriages put back together. Wayward children brought home. Dead churches made alive again. New ministries created with a new focus. Going new places. What would a new Maxdale, Briggs, Ding Dong, 777, Florence, Youngsport, what would that look like? What would that look like? Where it's God honoring, God blessing, God moving, God inspiring. What would a changed Bell County and Williamson County look like? So where are you going with this, Brother Mike? Well, I'm glad you asked. Here's how I want to close today. In your bulletin, amongst all that other stuff that we had to put in there, is this. There's a piece of paper that says change ahead. I want you to dig that out real quick. If you got a bulletin, dig that out. Because there's something I want you to do for me. Because I'm telling you, this works. There's two things I want us to, as we close, two things I want us to look at. Your life and your church. If this is your home church, I'm talking to you. If you have a home church, thank you for being with us. Go back and be faithful. If you're looking for a home church, this is a pretty good one right here. In spite of who the preacher is, this is a pretty good church. It all starts with a change and a decision to allow God to be God. It's like the following of a storm. You just let it happen. Let God move in your life. As a pastor, thinking about let God move in our church. I still see some empty seats around here. How do you know there's some people that could be sitting here knowing more about Jesus Christ? And I want to talk in a 2-year segment. We overestimate what God might do in 1 year. But we underestimate what God can do in 2. Because we're impatient. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about who you're sitting next to. We're impatient. I want it now, God. And God says, if you'll give me a couple years, I'll show you something you've never seen in your life. If you just give me a couple years. So I want us to dream a dream here just a second. In 2 years, what would your changed life look like? What would you like to see in your life? I would love to see my addictions gone. I would love to see myself actually loving God. I would love to see myself more faithful in church. I would love to see my marriage restored. I would love to see my relationship with my kids restored. Whatever it may be in your life, I would love to read the Bible and not fall asleep. Let's get real here just a second. What is it that God could do in your life that you would love to see? That we can't do on our own. And then secondly, what would a changed church look like? In 2 years, what could this church look like? With new people, new ministries, new things, a new arena, a new gym, no new pastor. You're stuck. Yeah. And this is the reason for it, because me being new with you and you being new with me, let's come up with a new dream. Let's come up with a new dream, and this is why I need your help. Because in 2 years from right now, I'm going to pull every one of those out, and I'm going to tape them around that foyer and down the hallway. Do not put your name on it. Do not put... for legal reasons, don't put your name on it. But I want to be able to share about you walk down that hallway 2 years from now looking at all of it and be able to say, that's mine. It happened. Matter of fact, it didn't just happen, even more than I could ever imagine happened. Look at what God did in my life. Look at what God did in my church. What would God like to do? You see, Jesus said in Mark chapter 10, blind Bartimaeus was brought to him. He's blind. His need is obvious. And yet Jesus still looked at him and said, what do you want me to do for you? I want to challenge you with that thought this morning. What would you like to see God do for you and in you? Bow your heads with me just a minute. Lord God, right now, we kind of sit at a crossroads, Lord, because there are things that you are wanting to do in our lives, in our church, things that are challenging, Lord, things that Things that maybe we've never been in that place before. Lord, what I pray right now, more than just trying to have our own little wish list, Lord, I pray that you would begin nudging our heart with what you would love to do in us. That, Father, I pray that you would help us to see what you see could be done in our lives in 2 years. And I would pray, Lord God, that you would lay a vision on our heart about what our church could be in 2 years. Because when we change, a church changes. And when a church changes, a community changes. And when a community changes, a state can change. A world can change. All because of a person. So, Father, I pray right now that you would begin moving in our hearts, speaking to us, saying, this is what I want to do. And Father, I'm going to pray right now that, Lord, you be calling us deeper and deeper in you. That, Lord God, we can know we belong to you because you are changing our lives. If our life isn't changing after all these years of decision, then, Lord, something's not right. I would pray right now, let us make it right with you. Father, come into our hearts right now and forgive us of our sins and cleanse us from all impurities, that we can be your people today. All we have to do is call on you and we will be saved. Father, I want to give you glory right now. In Jesus' name. Amen. So here's what I ask for you to do, friend. If you would, please. I want you to take that piece of paper. You may be able to fill it out right now. You can leave it in your seat, throw it in the offering box back in the back. Drop it off in the office. I don't care. But I'm going to ask within the next couple weeks, please, because this does matter. It does matter. Would you fill that out? Don't put your name on it. Drop it off. Because in 2 years, I would love to see what God did in changing you, us, and who knows, maybe even this area. If you haven't seen it, there's a revival breaking out. The Methodist Church, unfortunately, that I grew up in, the Methodist Church is in a meltdown state, and yet in the middle of a meltdown, God is birthing a prayer revival at Asbury, one of our Methodist schools. God's moving. God's doing something good if we just let it. If we just let it. Thank you for coming out to church today. Stand with me if you would. Don't forget all the good things we got going on this week with all the announcements. Take that bulletin and all that stuff. Take it all home with you. I'm going to ask, and don't, when is it the 22nd we're meeting with y'all? We're going to be having a special service on Wednesday the 22nd with our youth pastor candidates, Michael and Areli Pilcher, and we want you to come out, and we're going to have them up here with me, and just a time to get to know them, and because we're looking forward to possibly seeing them become our new youth pastors. So mark that down. Especially if you got kids in the youth group, we really want to hear from you. If you ain't got nobody in that youth group and you just grouchy, but we want you to come out and get to know them on that particular day. I'm going to ask Sister Sandy Romer, would you dismiss us in a word of prayer? Thank you, Father. We thank